This is the biggest news story in the world. And what is it about? A big part of what it's about is those cartoons. To not publish them is to not inform the reader. It's to not inform the consumers of news around the world. Essentially, it's a dereliction of duty for a news organization not to publish them, in my opinion.
Let me bring in Haras Rafiq here. I mean, what do you make of those arguments, you personally and the Quilliam Foundation? Then we can get on to wider Muslim community.
No, I think absolutely right. I think that this fear should never be a reason for not publishing something in a liberal secular democracy. I think that each news channel should make their own decisions and not be driven by potential retaliation. If there is a news story to tell, then absolutely they should tell it. And I think that it all bases around on blasphemy. I think there are some people that will have a problem with the cartoons, and I know you're going to ask me about that, but I think one of the things that's key to realise right now, Islam is an idea. I choose to be a Muslim. It's a value that I choose to do. It's not racist to criticise Islam, the faith, and it's not racist to actually highlight some news, in this case, as the Daily Beast have done. However, you know, if people are inciting to violence or hatred, that's a different matter. So I think the Daily Beast were perfectly within their rights to actually publish the cartoon. And
actually, Christopher was absolutely right. I mean, I get tweets and other journalists do and about blasphemy and all sorts of things, and it does offend and it will be provocative to some people within various Muslim communities, won't it?
Absolutely. There'll be two reasons why. First of all, there are some Muslims that will be offended because they have a belief that the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, cannot be drawn by anybody in any manner whatsoever, and these are sort of quite conservative sort of Muslims, and there are quite a few of them, despite there having been a rich heritage of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, being drawn sort of over a period of 1300 years. But then there are a larger group that will have a personal offence at the fact that the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, has been has been used in satire, and I think this is something that people will take offence to, but that shouldn't be a problem.
But although this cartoon, as far as we can see, is sympathetic. I mean, people will take offence, as you say. Some people will think it's blasphemy, but it shows. He says all is forgiven.
No, absolutely,
is a message that all the great religions of the world have at their heart, isn't it?
Absolutely. I don't think people should take offence to something that is a positive message. However, from a blasphemy, from a certain interpretation of Sharia perspective, just the fact that there is a caricature of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, will be enough for them to be offended, and that's okay. That we have a right in Europe to offend and a right to be offended. And I think that's perfectly fine.
Christopher, do you think things will change as a result of these horrible events? I mean, if a lot of people start doing what you're doing and what Charlie Hebdo did on the fringes of French politics, suddenly it's mainstream, 3 million copies being published, perhaps, as you say, biggest news story in the world, all around the world. Do you think that actually will change people's views within perhaps parts of the Muslim community?
Well, I think it might. I mean, I think there's a vast number of educated, cosmopolitan, thinking Muslims out there who already found it much less than a capital offense to caricature the Prophet Muhammad in the pages of something like Charlie Hebdo. I think one of the things that you see, we've seen some advanced copies of it. One of the things that's so striking about it is that it's really pretty banal. It's sort of schoolboy humor. And most of it is, I won't say inoffensive, but to be offended by it, you would have to be really sensitive. You would have to be someone who really wanted to take offense to begin with. So I think all of that is going to get kind of behind us, and we'll probably live in a world, to some extent, that's more sane on the question of publications like this. But I'm afraid that the other effects that we're going to see are going to be pretty negative. I think there's a real risk of a deep cleavage between the Muslims in Europe and the non-Muslims, as we saw with the Pegida marches in Germany, and as we see with attacks on Muslim targets in this country, in France, that are going largely unreported. I think all of that is going to rankle for a very long time, and I think, you know, we have some very rough years ahead of us in trying to find that balance of freedom and that balance of respect for worship that enable us all to live together.
Just a final thought then for Haras, some rough years ahead of us, because actually the thing that most people take offence at, and you do too, is people being killed.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that should override any other offence that we or any Muslims have over some caricature or some figure. And I think there is out of the tragedy that we've seen in Paris over the last week, I think there is some glimmer of hope, and that is that if we look at the number of people that came out against extremism and against Islamist extremism and against the terrorists, we had 3.7 million people approximately yesterday, hundreds and thousands of people, and there were Muslims and non-Muslims joining hands and really leading a civic society response to the terrorist killings that have happened. And I think there is a glimmer of hope, and I think that we need to, as a society, get on top of it as soon as possible.
Haras Rafiq, Christopher Dickey, thank you both very much. Thank you.